The ballroom glittered like a trap made of crystal and lies. Elara Vance stood frozen at the edge of the marble floor, her hand still warm from where her fiancé had held it moments before, right before he let go. Right before he turned to the woman dripping in diamonds and old bloodlines, smiled that smile Elara thought belonged to her, and announced his real engagement to the entire court. The room erupted in polite applause. Elara's world shattered. But if you think this is a story about a broken heart, you're wrong. This is about what happens when a woman with nothing left to lose decides to burn down everything that tried to bury her. Stay until the end. Like and comment what city you're watching from. The Ashford Royal Masquerade was supposed to be Elara's beginning. She'd spent 3 months preparing, every detail calculated. The midnight blue gown, borrowed, but nobody needed to know that. The mask she'd painted herself because custom ones cost more than she earned in a year. The practiced smile that said, "I belong here," even when her stomach twisted with the truth that she didn't. "You're shaking," her fiancé Thomas Harwell had whispered earlier that evening as they'd arrived at the palace gates. His hand had squeezed hers, not comforting, correcting. "Stop it. They'll smell fear on you." Elara had forced her hand still. "I'm not afraid." "Good. Because tonight, everything changes for us." His eyes had gleamed in the torchlight, and she'd thought it was love. Ambition, maybe. She'd known Thomas was driven. That's what she'd admired about him. A merchant son clawing his way toward respectability, just like her. A strategist's daughter who'd learned to read battlefields from maps her father smuggled home before the war killed him. They were supposed to rise together. The ballroom was a cathedral of excess. Chandeliers dripped light across marble floors so polished they reflected the dancers like ghosts. Silk and velvet bodies swirled to an orchestra tucked in the gallery above, their music threading through laughter and the clink of crystal. Elara had never seen so much wealth in one place. It didn't inspire awe. It inspired rage. Quiet, carefully buried rage at how easy some people had it. "Stay close to me," Thomas had murmured, guiding her through the crowd. "I need to speak with Lord Pemberton. He's considering my proposal for the eastern trade routes." Elara had nodded, playing her part. The supportive partner. The woman who didn't mind being decoration while men discussed real business. Except she'd drafted half that proposal. Restructured the tariff calculations Thomas had botched. Figured out the shipping schedules that made the whole thing viable. But her name wasn't on any of it. Thomas had smiled when she'd handed him the finished documents. Kissed her forehead. "What would I do without you?" She'd told herself that was enough. That behind every successful man was a woman doing the actual work. And someday, she'd get her recognition. That someday had felt close. Thomas had hinted at announcements tonight, official ones. She'd assumed he meant their engagement, finally made public to the court that mattered. She'd been stupid. "Harwell!" A booming voice cut through the music. Lord Pemberton himself, a mountain of a man with a silver beard and rings on every finger, clapped Thomas on the shoulder hard enough to make him stumble. "There you are, boy. And this must be your companion." The pause before companion was deliberate. Elara felt it like a blade. "Yes, my lord, this is charming, very charming." Pemberton didn't look at her. "Come, let's discuss business. The Duke is waiting." Thomas had hesitated for exactly half a second. Then he'd released Elara's hand. "Wait here. I'll return shortly." He hadn't. Elara stood at the edge of the dance floor for 20 minutes, watching the court spin and laugh. Watching women in gowns that cost more than her childhood home glide past without seeing her. Watching the servers, people like her, from the lower city, move through the crowd invisible except when someone wanted wine. She'd just decided to find Thomas herself when she saw him. Center of the ballroom, under the largest chandelier where everyone could see, on one knee, in front of a woman who was not Elara. The music didn't stop. The world did. The woman was breathtaking in the way only inherited beauty could be. Porcelain skin, hair like spun gold, a gown that probably cost more than Elara would earn in a lifetime. Lady Genevieve Ashford, daughter of the Duke of Westmarch. First cousin to the king, and Thomas was offering her a ring. "Lady Genevieve," his voice carried across the sudden hush that had fallen over the nearby dancers. "Would you do me the extraordinary honor of becoming my wife?" Genevieve's laugh was like bells. "Oh, Thomas, you're impossible." She extended her hand and he slipped the ring on. The same ring Elara had admired in his coat pocket 3 days ago, the one he'd said was a surprise. It was. The applause started scattered, then built. Someone whooped. The orchestra swelled into something triumphant. Elara couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't process what she was seeing. Thomas rose, and Genevieve kissed him. Not a polite peck, a real kiss, the kind that said mine. And then, Thomas turned his head slightly, and his eyes found Elara across the crowd. He didn't look guilty. He looked satisfied, like he'd just closed a profitable deal. The crowd parted as Elara walked forward. She didn't plan it. Her body just moved, autopilot carrying her through the sea of silk and judging eyes until she stood 10 feet from the happy couple. Thomas, her voice came out steady. She was proud of that. He blinked, as if surprised to see her. Elara, I thought you'd left. Left? She repeated the word like it was foreign. You thought I'd left? Genevieve turned, noticing Elara for the first time. Her expression cycled through confusion, recognition, then settled on amused pity. Oh, Thomas, is this... A friend, Thomas said quickly. She helped with some of my business proposals, very talented with numbers. Friend, helped, some, every word was an erasure. I see. Genevieve's smile was sharp as glass. How kind of you to assist Thomas. He's mentioned needing help with the more tedious aspects of his work. The crowd was watching now, whispers spreading like fire. Thomas, Elara said again, quieter this time. We were engaged. The whispers grew louder. Thomas's jaw tightened. Elara, don't do this. Don't do what? Tell the truth? We had an understanding, nothing formal. His voice dropped to a hiss. You knew what this was. I knew... Her voice cracked. She hated that it cracked. I knew I loved you. I knew I helped you build everything you have. I knew you said we'd do this together. And we did. You helped. I'm grateful. Thomas took Genevieve's hand, the one with the ring. But Genevieve is... She's my future. Surely you can understand. This is about more than... More than what? More than me? Elara laughed, and it sounded broken even to her own ears. You used me, my work, my ideas. You took everything I gave you and... Enough. Thomas's voice turned cold, final. You're making a scene. I suggest you leave before you embarrass yourself further. The room had gone silent. Even the orchestra had stopped. Elara looked around at the faces watching her. Pity, amusement, contempt. No one was going to help. No one cared that she'd been discarded like trash. She was nothing here. She'd always been nothing here. You're right, she heard herself say. I should go. She turned, started walking. Each step felt like drowning. Poor thing, someone murmured as she passed. Did she really think? Girls like that always do. The voices followed her toward the exit. Tears burned her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Not here. Not in front of these people. She'd almost made it to the doors when she collided with something solid. A man. Tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in black that seemed to swallow the light. His mask covered half his face, but the visible half was all sharp angles and a scar that ran from his temple to his jaw. Careful, he said. His voice was gravel and smoke. Sorry. Elara tried to step around him. His hand caught her elbow. Not rough, but firm. You're bleeding. What? He nodded at her hands. She looked down. Her nails had cut crescents into her palms. Blood welled in the small wounds. It's nothing, she said. Nothing. He released her arm but didn't move. Is that what you are? Nothing? She looked up at him, really looked. His visible eye was gray, cold as winter, and studied her with an intensity that made her skin prickle. I don't know you, Elara said. No, but I know what I just watched. He glanced past her toward the ballroom where the celebration was resuming. Thomas and Genevieve at the center of it all. Impressive. What is? How thoroughly you were erased. Takes skill to disappear someone that completely while they're still standing in the room. His attention returned to her. What did you lose? Everything. The word came out before she could stop it. Then you're dangerous. Elara laughed bitterly. Dangerous, right. I'm so dangerous they just threw me away. People with nothing left to lose are the most dangerous kind. He pulled a handkerchief from his pocket and pressed it into her bleeding palm. My name is Kyle Draven. The name hit her like cold water. Everyone knew that name. The Draven family, old nobility, military legacy, whispered to be the king's bloody right hand when things needed to be handled quietly. And Kyle Draven specifically, the youngest son who'd come back from the northern wars with more scars than medals, and a reputation that made even other nobles nervous. I know who you are, Elara said. Good. Then you know I don't waste time. Kale studied her for another long moment. You want revenge. It wasn't a question. I want... She stopped. What did she want? To rewind time? To make Thomas choose her? No. That ship had burned. I want them to see me. They won't. Not unless you make them. Kale's voice dropped. Unless you become someone they can't ignore. And how exactly do I do that? Marry me. Elara stared at him. What? Marry me. Tonight. Right now. You're insane. Probably. Kale shrugged. I need a wife. Political reasons. You need status and protection. Practical reasons. We can help each other. You don't even know me. I know enough. You're smart. That proposal your ex-fiancé is celebrating was your work, wasn't it? You're brave. Most people would have run crying. You're angry, which makes you useful. And you're desperate, which makes you willing to take risks. He extended his hand. I'm offering you a choice. Walk out that door as nothing, or walk back in as a duchess. This is crazy. Yes. You could marry anyone. Why me? Because everyone else in there wants something from me. Power, money, status. You just want to survive. That's honest. I can work with honest. His hand remained extended. And because I think you could be very good at this if you stopped pretending to be small. Elara looked at his hand, then back toward the ballroom where her old life had just been publicly incinerated. She'd spent years trying to fit into their world, following the rules, being grateful for scraps, and it had gotten her nothing. If I do this, she said slowly, I'm not pretending to be anything anymore. Good. I don't need another porcelain doll. I need a partner. A partner. Someone who can think, fight, survive this court without breaking. Kale's expression didn't change. The nobles in there, they're wolves. Pretty ones, but wolves. They'll eat you alive if you show weakness, but if you show teeth, he smiled, and it wasn't comforting. They'll make room. Elara's heart hammered against her ribs. This was insane. Marriage to a stranger, a dangerous stranger with a reputation for violence and political ruthlessness. But staying meant disappearing completely, meant watching Thomas succeed on her work while she faded into nothing. She thought of her father, the way he'd taught her to read battlefields. Sometimes the only winning move is the one nobody expects, he'd said. The move that looks like suicide but isn't. That's where victory lives. This was that move. Elara took Kale's hand. His grip was solid, real. You're sure? No, but I'm doing it anyway. Kale's smile widened slightly. Good answer. Come on. He led her back into the ballroom. Not to the exit, into it. Heads turned as they walked, the crowd partying around Kyle like he was fire and they were paper. Thomas saw them coming. His expression cycled through confusion, recognition, then alarm. Kyle walked straight to the center of the floor, pulling Elara with him. The orchestra faltered. Conversations died. Lord Ashford, Kyle called out, his voice carrying to every corner of the vast room. My apologies for the interruption. Duke Ashford, Genevieve's father, stepped forward from a cluster of nobles. He was tall, silver-haired, with eyes that calculated everything. Lord Draven, this is unexpected. I need a favor. Kale didn't release Elara's hand. I require a witness for a marriage contract. Tonight. Immediately. The silence was total. A marriage? The Duke's gaze slid to Elara. To whom? To Miss Elara Vance. She's accepted my proposal and I'd like to make it official before the night ends. Kale's tone was casual, like he was discussing the weather. Would you do me the honor of officiating? Elara felt every eye in the room lock onto her, including Thomas's. His face had gone white. Lord Draven, Genevieve stepped forward, her smile frozen. Surely this is rather sudden. Yes, that's the point. Kale looked at Elara. Unless the lady has changed her mind. This was it. The ledge. She could step back, apologize, slink away, or jump. I haven't changed my mind, Elara said clearly. The Duke studied them both. A calculating look crossed his face. He was seeing angles, possibilities, political ramifications. Finally, he nodded. Very well. If the lady consents freely. She does, Elara said before he could finish. Then let's proceed. What followed was a blur. The Duke called for the court cleric. Documents appeared. Kale must have had them prepared, which meant he'd planned this, or at least considered it. Elara signed her name next to his. Their hands joined. Words were spoken, ancient and formal. Through it all, Elara kept her eyes on Thomas. Watched him realize what was happening. Watched him understand that she hadn't slunk away broken, that she'd found another path, a better one. When the cleric pronounced them bound by law and custom, Kael lifted her hand and kissed her knuckles. The gesture was formal, perfunctory, but the room exploded in whispers anyway. Lady Draven, Kael said, and the title sounded strange attached to her name. Shall we? They walked out together, not fleeing, leaving, like they'd finished their business and had better places to be. Behind them, Elara heard Thomas's voice, sharp with panic. Genevieve, I can explain. She didn't hear the rest. Didn't need to. Outside, the night air hit her like a slap. Reality crashed in. What had she done? She'd married a stranger, a dangerous stranger, given up any chance at a normal life. Regretting it already? Kael asked. A carriage waited, black and unmarked. Yes. No, I don't know. Elara pressed her hand to her stomach. What happens now? Now you survive. Kael opened the carriage door. The court is going to come after you. They'll test you, break you if they can. You just humiliated one of their own and married into a family they fear. That makes you a threat. Great, wonderful, exactly what I wanted. You wanted to be seen. Congratulations. Now everyone's looking. He gestured to the carriage. Get in. We have a lot of work to do if you're going to last the week. Elara climbed in. The interior was dark, plush, smelling of leather and something sharp, gunpowder maybe. Kael settled across from her. As the carriage lurched into motion, he pulled off his mask. The scar was worse in full light. It twisted the left side of his face, pulling at the corner of his mouth. His eyes were both gray now, watching her with that same calculating intensity. You're staring, he said. You're terrifying. Good. Let them think you're terrified of me. They'll underestimate you. He leaned back. First lesson? Everyone in that court is playing a game. Power, influence, survival. They smile while they plot to destroy each other. The nobles wear silk and drink wine and pretend to be civilized, but underneath, they're just warlords with better table manners. And you? I stopped pretending years ago. Kael's expression was unreadable. I do what needs to be done. I protect what's mine, and I don't lose. What's mine? Is that what I am now? Yes, which means anyone who comes after you comes after me. And I'm very bad at losing. He pulled a small box from his coat. Here. Elara opened it. Inside was a ring, silver, with a dark stone that looked like frozen smoke. Simple, but clearly expensive. Couldn't have you walking around without one, Kael said. People would talk. People are already talking. Let them. Put it on. Elara slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. You had this ready. I've been looking for a wife for 3 months, had several options prepared. Kael's tone was matter of fact. You were the first one desperate enough to say yes. Romantic. I'm not offering romance, I'm offering survival. Partnership. A chance to become powerful enough that nobody can ever throw you away again. He met her eyes. But you have to earn it. This isn't a rescue. You're not a princess in a tower. You're a soldier now. Act like it. The carriage rolled through dark streets. Elara watched the city pass outside, the lower quarters where she'd grown up, the smell of coal smoke and desperation. Then up, into the cleaner air of Noble District, past mansions with guards at the gates. "Where are we going?" she asked. "Draven House, your new home." Kyle was still watching her. "Fair warning, my family is complicated. My father died in the war, my mother runs the estate. My older brother handles military affairs. My sister is at court. They're not going to be pleased about this. About you marrying me. About me marrying anyone without consulting them first. About bringing an unknown factor into the family. About all of it." He paused. "They'll test you. Hard. Don't show weakness." "What if I'm weak?" "Then fake it. Fake it so well even you believe it. That's what power is. Convincing everyone you have it until you actually do." The carriage stopped. Elara looked out and felt her breath catch. Draven House wasn't a house, it was a fortress. Stone walls that had weathered centuries, windows like narrow eyes, towers that scraped the sky. Guards flanked the entrance, armed and alert. "Come on," Kyle said. "Let's introduce you to the family." They walked in together. Servants appeared like ghosts, taking cloaks, murmuring greetings. The entrance hall was all dark wood and weapons mounted on walls, swords, axes, shields bearing the Draven crest, a raven with a broken crown in its talons. "Kyle," a woman's voice, cold and sharp. An older woman descended the stairs. She was tall, severe, with iron gray hair and eyes like chips of ice. She wore black, high-necked and formal. "Mother," Kale said. "This is Elara Vance, my wife. Elara, this is Catherine Draven." Catherine's expression didn't change. "Your wife?" "As of an hour ago." "I see." Catherine's gaze raked over Elara, cataloging everything. "And you thought this didn't merit discussion?" "It was time-sensitive." "Everything with you is time-sensitive." Catherine stepped closer to Elara. "Who are you, girl?" Elara straightened. "Elara Vance, daughter of Marcus Vance, military strategist. I grew up in the lower city. I have no fortune, no title, and apparently no sense of self-preservation." The corner of Catherine's mouth might have twitched. Might have. "At least you're honest. Come. We have things to discuss." She turned and walked toward what looked like a study. Kyle touched Elara's elbow. Brief, steadying, then followed. Elara took a breath and walked after them into her new life. Whatever waited in that room, she'd face it. She'd chosen this path. Now she'd walk it until it led her where she needed to go. Or killed her trying. Catherine's study was a war room disguised as a library. Maps covered one wall. Territories, trade routes, military positions marked with colored pins. The other walls held books, but not the decorative kind. These were worn, used, their spines cracked from reading. A massive desk dominated the center, scarred wood that had survived decades. Catherine sat behind it like a general. Kyle took a chair to the side. Elara remained standing until Catherine gestured impatiently. "Sit. I'm not going to bite you." Catherine's eyes narrowed. "Yet." Elara sat. "My son has made many impulsive decisions," Catherine began, pouring 3 glasses of something amber from a crystal decanter. "He once challenged a duke to a duel over a perceived slight. He accepted a suicide mission in the northern campaign because someone said it couldn't be done. He brought home a wolf cub he found in the woods and was shocked when it ate the household cat." She slid a glass toward Elara. "But marrying a complete stranger at a masquerade? That's bold even for him." "Mother." "Quiet, Kyle. I'm talking to your wife." Catherine studied Elara. "Why did you agree?" "I had nothing to lose." "Everyone has something to lose. Try again." Elara took a breath. "My fiancé publicly humiliated me. Threw me away like garbage in front of the entire court. I could either leave broken or stay and fight. Your son offered me a weapon. I took it. Revenge, then. Survival." Catherine smiled, sharp, predatory. "Good. Revenge makes you stupid. Survival keeps you smart." She raised her glass. "Welcome to House Draven. Don't embarrass us, and we won't feed you to the wolves. Do embarrass us, and I'll throw you to them myself." "Comforting," Elara said. "It should be. I'm being honest. Most of the court will smile while they sharpen knives for your back." Catherine drank. "Now, What are your skills? What do you bring to this family besides scandal and a vendetta against some merchant's boy? Elara met her gaze. I'm a strategist. I can read a battlefield, political or military. I managed my fiancé's entire business operation, trade routes, negotiations, contract structures. Everything he's built, I designed. Can you prove that? Give me a problem. Any problem. Let me solve it. Catherine's smile widened. She pulled a folder from her desk and tossed it across. Lord Pemberton controls the eastern trade routes. He's corrupt, bleeding merchants dry with inflated tariffs. He's also the king's cousin, which makes him untouchable. Half a dozen families have tried to break his monopoly. All failed. You have 5 minutes. Tell me how you do it. Elara opened the folder. Numbers swam across the pages, tariff schedules, shipping manifests, profit margins. She could feel Kael watching her, testing her. 3 minutes later, she looked up. You don't break his monopoly. You make it worthless. Explain. Pemberton controls the eastern routes because they're the fastest. But there's a southern coastal route everyone ignores because it takes longer and has pirate problems. Elara pointed to the map. Fund a privateering fleet. Legitimate, crown-sanctioned. They clear the pirates, protect merchants who use the southern route. You offer those merchants lower fees than Pemberton, just low enough to make the extra time worth it. Within 6 months, enough traffic shifts south that Pemberton's eastern routes aren't profitable anymore. He either lowers his tariffs to compete or he loses everything. Silence. Catherine leaned back. That could work. It will work. Pemberton's greedy, not smart. He'll try to undercut the southern route, drop his prices too fast, and bankrupt himself trying to maintain control of both. And if the king objects to us funding privateers, frame it as anti-piracy efforts, protecting crown interests. The king can't argue with that without looking weak. Elara closed the folder. Plus, once Pemberton's broke, you buy his eastern routes for pennies. Then you control both. Not a monopoly, a legitimate business expansion. Catherine looked at Kael. I like her. Told you she was smart. Smart isn't enough in this world, but it's a start. Catherine turned back to Elara. You'll need training. How to walk, talk, dress, eat. Everything you do will be scrutinized. Every mistake will be weaponized. The court doesn't forgive ignorance. I can learn. You'll have to. Starting tomorrow, you're going to be thrown into the deep end. There's a council meeting in 3 days. The king wants all noble families present to discuss the grain shortage. You'll attend as Kael's wife. Elara's stomach dropped. 3 days? Is that a problem? I don't know how to Then learn fast. Catherine stood. Kael, show her to her rooms. I'll arrange for instructors in the morning. Dismissed. Kael rose and gestured for Elara to follow. They left the study, walking through corridors lined with portraits of stern-faced dravens from centuries past. All of them looked like they'd rather kill you than talk to you. Your mother is terrifying, Elara said. Yes, she also just gave you her approval. Most people don't get that. Kael stopped at a heavy oak door. These are your quarters. He pushed it open. The room beyond was larger than the entire apartment Elara had grown up in. A 4-poster bed dominated one side, draped in dark blue fabric. Windows overlooked the city, lights twinkling in the distance. A fireplace crackled with fresh logs. It's connected to mine through that door. Kael pointed to a door on the left wall. For appearances. We need to maintain the illusion of a real marriage. It's not real? It's legal. Real is different. Kael's expression was unreadable. I don't expect anything from you. This is a partnership, political alliance, nothing more. Right. Of course. Elara felt stupid for even asking. What had she expected? This was a transaction. She knew that. Your things will arrive tomorrow. For tonight, there's clothing in the wardrobe. Should fit well enough. Kael moved toward the connecting door, then paused. One more thing. Don't trust anyone at court. Not the nobles who smile at you, not the servants who seem friendly. Everyone has an agenda. Everyone will use you if they can. Even you? Especially me, but at least I'm honest about it. He opened the door to his own room. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be brutal. He disappeared, leaving Elara alone in a room that cost more than her entire previous life. She sat on the bed. It was obscenely comfortable. Everything here was designed for comfort, for luxury, for people who'd never known hunger or cold or desperation. She hated it, and she wanted it, wanted to keep it, wanted to prove she belonged here. The contradiction made her head hurt. A knock at the door jolted her. A young woman entered, a maid, maybe 16, with dark hair and nervous eyes. "My lady, I'm here to help you prepare for bed. I can manage as... Please, my lady, it's my job." The girl looked terrified of being dismissed. Elara softened. "What's your name?" "Anna, my lady." "Okay, Anna. Help me with this dress. The laces are killing me." Anna's hands were quick and practiced, unlacing the borrowed gown. Elara stepped out of it, feeling like she was shedding someone else's skin. "If I may say, my lady," Anna whispered as she hung the dress, "that was very brave, what you did tonight." "Stupid, you mean?" "Brave and stupid aren't so different sometimes." Anna pulled a nightgown from the wardrobe. Silk, of course. Everything here was silk. "The staff is talking. They say you humiliated Lady Genevieve, made her look foolish." "I didn't do anything to her." "You married Lord Draven, same thing." Anna helped Elara into the nightgown. "Lady Genevieve wanted him for herself. She's been trying to catch his attention for years." Elara processed that. "He turned her down?" "He turned everyone down. Until you." Anna's eyes were curious. "What's he like?" "Lord Draven? They say he's killed men with his bare hands, that he doesn't feel pain, that he's cursed. He's direct, honest in a brutal kind of way." Elara sat at the vanity while Anna unpinned her hair. "And I think the curse thing is probably exaggerated." "Probably." Anna didn't sound convinced. After Anna left, Elara lay in bed and stared at the ceiling. Sleep wouldn't come. Her mind kept replaying the night. Thomas's face when he saw her with Kael, the weight of the ring on her finger, Catherine's testing gaze. She'd jumped off a cliff tonight. Now she was falling, waiting to see if she'd land or splatter. Somewhere past midnight, she heard movement from Kael's room. Footsteps. Then silence. She wondered if he slept. If men like him could sleep, or if the things they'd done kept them awake. Morning came too fast. Anna woke her before dawn, bringing breakfast on a tray, more food than Elara usually ate in a day. "Eat quickly, my lady. Your instructors arrive in an hour." "Instructors, plural?" "3. Lady Catherine was very specific." Anna laid out clothing, a day dress in deep green, far simpler than last night's gown, but still finer than anything Elara had owned. "Madame Laurent for etiquette and deportment, Master Chen for court politics and history, and Lady Thorne for, well, she didn't say. But Lady Thorne teaches all the Draven women." The lessons were hell. Madame Laurent was a stick-thin woman with a voice like a metronome. She made Elara walk the length of the room, balancing a book on her head for 2 hours straight. "Your posture is atrocious. You walk like a peasant." "I am a peasant." "You were. Now you're a duchess. Act like it. Again. Shoulders back, chin level. You're not asking permission to exist, you're announcing your presence." Laurent circled her like a hawk. "When you enter a room, everyone should know you belong there. Even if you don't believe it, they must. Confidence is a performance. Perfect it." Master Chen was ancient, wrinkled as old paper, with eyes that missed nothing. He spread genealogy charts across a table and pointed to names. "These are the families that matter. Ashford, Pemberton, Sterling, Blackwood, Vale. Know their histories, their alliances, their feuds." His finger tapped a name. "Duke Ashford, your new father-in-law's rival. They've been fighting over northern territories for 3 generations. Lord Pemberton controls eastern trade, as you know. Recently betrothed to the king's niece. Lord Sterling, former military, now head of the king's council. Hates House Draven because Kael refused to follow his orders during the war." "Why did Kael refuse?" "Because Sterling's orders would have gotten everyone killed. Kael chose his men over glory. Sterling never forgave him." Chen moved to another name. "Lady Blackwood. She runs the information network, knows everyone's secrets, dangerous. And Lord Vale, he's the king's treasurer. Drowning in debt, but hides it well." Elara's head spun. "How am I supposed to remember all this?" "By understanding that your life depends on it. These people are playing a game that's lasted centuries. One wrong word to the wrong person and you'll find yourself poisoned, bankrupt, or exiled, possibly all three. Chen tapped the table. Now, tell me about the Ashford-Sterling alliance and why it's currently unstable. Lady Thorne arrived last, and she was nothing like Elara expected. Young, maybe 30, with scars on her hands and a sword at her hip. Catherine says you need to learn to fight. Fight? Court is a battlefield, but sometimes battles get literal. Thorne drew her sword in one smooth motion. You're going to learn to defend yourself, starting now. She tossed Elara a practice blade. Elara caught it clumsily. Have you ever held a sword? No. Good. No bad habits to break. Thorne fell into a stance. First rule. You're smaller and weaker than most opponents. Use that. Be faster, smarter, dirtier. There's no honor in being dead. For the next hour, Thorne beat the hell out of her. Not literally. The practice swords were blunted, but Elara accumulated bruises like metals. Her arms burned. Her legs shook. Again, Thorne commanded after Elara fell for the 10th time. You're thinking too much. Trust your instinct. My instinct says this is impossible. Then your instinct is wrong. Again. By midday, Elara could barely stand. The instructors finally left and she collapsed in her room, every muscle screaming. Anna brought lunch. Lord Draven requests your presence in the strategy room. Tell him I'm dead. He said you'd say that. He also said if you don't come, he'll drag you there himself. Anna smiled apologetically. His words, my lady. Groaning, Elara dragged herself upright and followed Anna through the maze of Draven House. The strategy room was on the top floor, a circular chamber with windows overlooking the entire city. Maps covered every surface. Kale stood at the largest table, studying troop movements. You're limping, he observed without looking up. Thorne tried to kill me. She was teaching you. There's a difference. Kale gestured to the table. Come here. I need your eyes on something. Elara approached. The map showed the kingdom's northern border, mountains, valleys, small fortified towns. There's been movement, Kyle said. Raiders from across the border. Small groups testing our defenses. The king wants to send troops. I think it's a trap. What kind of trap? The kind where we commit forces north while something else happens south. His finger traced a route. Look at this. The raids are hitting specific towns. No pattern geographically, but there is one economically. They're all trade hubs. Someone's trying to disrupt supply lines. Elara studied the map. Her father had taught her to see patterns, to read the spaces between obvious moves. Who benefits from disrupted northern trade? Lord Pemberton. His eastern routes become critical if the north is unstable. So he's funding the raids? Possibly. Or someone wants us to think he is. Kale looked at her. This is the game. Nothing is what it seems. Every move has 3 meanings, and you have to see all of them to survive. That's exhausting. Yes, welcome to court. He rolled up the map. The council meeting is in 2 days. You'll be expected to attend, sit quietly, and look decorative. Don't do that. Don't? Don't sit quietly. Don't be decorative. Pay attention. Watch who talks to whom, who avoids eye contact, who's nervous. Read the room like it's a battlefield, because it is. Kale moved to another table, this one covered in letters. You'll also start receiving invitations, teas, luncheons, salons. Accept some, decline others, make them wonder about the pattern. Is there a pattern? Not yet, but they'll invent one, and that tells you what they're thinking. He handed her a stack of sealed envelopes. These arrived this morning. For you. Elara broke the first seal. The handwriting was elegant, the paper expensive. Lady Draven, you must join us for afternoon tea. We are simply dying to meet Kael's mysterious bride. Yours, Countess Sterling. The second was similar. So was the third. They're circling, Elara said. Sharks always do when there's blood in the water. They want to see if you're weak, if you crack under pressure, if you can be turned against me. Kale's voice was matter-of-fact. Some of these women will pretend to be your friend. They'll offer advice, sympathy, solidarity. They're lying. They want information, leverage, ammunition. Everyone's an enemy. Everyone's a potential enemy. Important distinction. Kyle paused. There is one exception. My sister Mira. She arrives tomorrow from the northern estates. You can trust her. Can I trust you? Kale smiled, not warmly but genuinely. I'm your ally. That's better than trust. Allies have shared interests. Trust is just faith, and faith gets you killed. That night, Elara attended her first dinner with the Draven family. Catherine sat at the head of the table, Kael to her right, Elara to her left. The meal was served by silent staff, each course more elaborate than the last. I've accepted 3 invitations on your behalf, Catherine said, cutting her meat with surgical precision. The Sterling tea tomorrow, the Ashford Salon in 2 days, and the Vale Garden Party next week. Why those specifically? Sterling because refusing would be an insult we can't afford yet. Ashford because we need to remind Duke Ashford that you exist and have power now. Vale because he's weak, and weak people talk when they're nervous. Catherine sipped her wine. You'll wear the blue dress to Sterling's, the one with the high collar. Conservative but clearly expensive. You're new money trying to look respectable. I'm not new money. I'm no money. They don't know that. Let them assume. Catherine set down her glass. At the Ashford Salon, wear something bolder. Red, perhaps. Your family now, whether Genevieve likes it or not. Make her swallow that fact in front of her father. Elara's stomach churned. She's going to hate me. She already hates you. Now make her fear you. Catherine's smile was razor sharp. Fear is more useful than hate. Hate makes people stupid. Fear makes them careful. The next morning, Elara stood in front of her mirror while Anna laced her into the blue dress Catherine had specified. It was beautiful, understated elegance that probably cost more than Elara's childhood home. The high collar framed her face, making her look older. Serious. You look like a duchess, Anna said softly. I look like I'm playing dress-up. Same thing, if you play it right. The Sterling residence was across the city, a mansion of white stone and manicured gardens. Carriages lined the circular drive, other noble ladies arriving for the tea. Elara's hand shook as her carriage stopped. Courage, Kael had said that morning. They're just people. Dangerous people, but people. You've already survived the worst night of your life. This is just talking. Elara stepped down. A servant led her through marble halls to a sunlit parlor where a dozen women sat on velvet furniture, teacups balanced on laps. Conversation died when she entered. Countess Sterling rose, a tall woman with silver hair and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Lady Draven, how wonderful you could join us. She air-kissed both of Elara's cheeks. Ladies, may I present our newest member of society, Kael Draven's bride. The women murmured greetings. Elara recognized some faces from the masquerade. Others were new, but all wore the same expression, polite curiosity masking calculation. Sit, sit, Countess Sterling gestured to an empty chair. We were just discussing the upcoming grain shortage. Such a dreadful business. Elara sat. A servant placed tea in front of her. She lifted it carefully, remembering Madame Laurent's lessons. Pinky down, small sips, don't slurp. Tell us, dear, a younger woman in yellow silk said. How did you and Lord Draven meet? It was all so sudden. We met at the masquerade, Elara said carefully. And it was love at first sight? The woman's tone was saccharine. It was mutually beneficial at first sight. A few women laughed. Elara couldn't tell if they were laughing with her or at her. How refreshingly honest, Countess Sterling said. Most people pretend their marriages are romantic, but we all know the truth, don't we? Marriage is politics by other means. Then I'm in the right place, Elara said. Politics seems to be everyone's favorite sport here. Sport implies rules, dear. What we do is war. The Countess sipped her tea. Speaking of which, I heard the most interesting rumor. About your former fiancé, Thomas Harwell? Elara's spine stiffened. I'm not familiar with that name. No? Strange. Because he's been telling quite the story about how you stole his work, his ideas, how everything he built you claimed credit for. The Countess's eyes glittered. Of course no one believes him. A man blaming a woman for his own failings, tale as old as time. The trap was elegant. If Elara defended herself, she'd look defensive. If she ignored it, the rumor would spread. She set down her teacup. If Mr. Harwell is having trouble remembering who did the work. Perhaps he should review his contracts. I'm sure his new fiancé would love to see how thoroughly I documented everything. You kept records? I keep records of everything, Countess. My father taught me that. Always know exactly what you contributed, because someday someone will try to erase you. I made sure that's impossible. It was a lie. She hadn't kept formal records. She'd trusted Thomas. But the Countess didn't know that. How prudent, the Countess said, and Elara heard the calculation shift. If there were records, Thomas's story was provably false. That made him either a liar or a fool. Either way, not worth believing. The conversation moved on. Safer topics, fashion, the weather, upcoming social events, but Elara felt eyes on her, watching, measuring. When she finally left 2 hours later, her face hurt from smiling. Kael was waiting in the carriage. How bad? They wanted to see if I'd break. I didn't. Elara slumped against the seat. But they're going to keep testing, pushing, looking for cracks. Then don't give them any. Kael pulled a folder from beside him. This came while you were out. From my brother. Elara opened it. Military reports, casualty estimates, budget projections. Why am I reading this? Because tomorrow we attend the council meeting. The king will ask for money and troops to handle the northern raids. Every family will argue about who pays and who fights. You need to understand what's actually at stake. Kael leaned forward. My brother commands the northern forces. He's requesting reinforcements. The king wants to deny him because it's expensive. If we don't push back, good men die. What do you want me to do? Watch. Listen. When I signal, back my position. Make it look like we're united. Kael's expression was hard. The king respects strength. Show him we're a unified front and he'll listen. Show weakness and he'll exploit it. That night, Elara couldn't sleep again. She lay in bed, replaying the day. The tea, the council meeting tomorrow. Catherine's expectations. The endless tests. A soft knock at the connecting door made her sit up. Come in, she called. Kael entered, still dressed. Can't sleep? Too much in my head. Same. He leaned against the doorframe. I wanted to make sure you're ready for tomorrow. I'm not, but I'll do it anyway. That's all anyone can do. Kael was quiet for a moment. You did well today. At the tea. Sterling's been trying to undermine House Draven for years. You didn't give her anything. I got lucky. Luck is preparation meeting opportunity. You were prepared. That's not luck. He turned to leave, then stopped. One more thing. At the council tomorrow, there's going to be a moment where it looks like we're losing, where the king is going to side against us. Don't panic. Trust me. I have a plan. What kind of plan? The kind that works if you don't question it in the moment. Can you do that? Elara thought about it. About trust and faith and allies. Yes. Good. Get some sleep. Tomorrow we go to war. He left. Elara stared at the closed door. Tomorrow the real test began. The council chamber. The king himself. All the families gathered, watching, waiting for her to fail. She wouldn't. She'd survived Thomas's betrayal, Catherine's testing, the Sterling tea. Each challenge had been worse than the last, and she'd walked through fire every time. Tomorrow would be no different. She'd walk into that council chamber and prove she belonged there, or burn trying. The council chamber was built to intimidate. Vaulted ceilings stretched 3 stories high, decorated with frescoes of ancient battles where Draven ancestors bled beside kings. Long windows let in cold morning light that turned everything gray and sharp. The table at the center was carved from a single massive oak, scarred from centuries of fists pounding it during arguments that shaped the kingdom. 20 chairs surrounded it. 19 were filled when Elara entered beside Kael. Every head turned. She'd worn the dress Catherine selected, deep burgundy with gold threading, high-necked and severe. Her hair was pulled back tight enough to make her scalp ache. The Draven ring caught the light as she walked, announcing exactly who she was, or who she was pretending to be. Lord Draven, the king's voice carried across the chamber. He sat at the table's head, younger than Elara expected, maybe 40, with tired eyes and a crown that looked heavy. And Lady Draven, how good of you both to join us. Your Majesty. Kyle bowed precisely. Elara copied him, remembering Madame Laurent's instructions. Not too deep. Show respect, not submission. They took seats near the middle. Directly across sat Duke Ashford and Genevieve. The Duke's face was unreadable. Genevieve's smile was poison. Now that we're all present, the king continued, let's address the northern situation. Lord Sterling, your report. Sterling stood, gray-haired, military posture, medals on his chest from wars he'd commanded from comfortable offices. Your Majesty, the raids continue. 17 towns hit in the past month. Supplies stolen, trade disrupted. Our forces are stretched thin. Casualties? The king asked. Minimal. The raiders avoid direct confrontation. They strike fast and retreat across the border before we can respond. Sounds like they're testing our response times, Elara said before she could stop herself. The room went silent. She felt Kael's warning glance, but it was too late. I beg your pardon? Sterling's tone could freeze water. The pattern, Elara kept her voice steady. They're not stealing enough to sustain themselves. They're measuring how long it takes our troops to arrive. That's reconnaissance, not raiding. And you base this on what military experience exactly? Sterling's smile was condescending. On pattern recognition. My father was a strategist, yes, we're aware. Sterling cut her off. But this is a council meeting, Lady Draven, not a classroom. Perhaps you should leave military matters to those of us who've actually fought. Heat crawled up Elara's neck. She started to respond, but Kael's hand found hers under the table. A brief squeeze. The signal to stop. Lord Sterling raises a valid point, Kael said smoothly. However, my wife's observation is worth considering. If the raids are reconnaissance, we're preparing for the wrong threat. The threat is obvious, Lord Pemberton interjected. He was fat, overdressed, dripping with rings. Barbarians testing our borders. We send troops. Crush them. Problem solved. And who commands these troops? Duke Ashford asked. Who pays for them? The crown pays, the king said tiredly, as always. The crown is broke, Lord Vale muttered. He was thin, nervous, constantly fidgeting. We can barely maintain current forces. Deploying more north means pulling them from somewhere else. Then we increase taxes, Pemberton said. On who? Ashford's voice was sharp. Your merchants are already bleeding the eastern routes dry. My merchants provide a service. Your merchants are thieves with licenses. The argument escalated. Voices rose. Fists hit the table. Elara watched it unfold like a chess match where everyone was playing different games. Kael leaned close, his voice low. See how Sterling and Pemberton aren't arguing? They're allied. Have been for months. Elara looked. He was right. Sterling and Pemberton exchanged glances while the others fought. Coordinated. What do they want? She whispered back. Control of the northern response. Sterling commands the troops. Pemberton supplies them. Both profit while the kingdom bleeds. Your Majesty, Sterling said, voice cutting through the chaos. I propose a solution. Send 500 men north under my command. Lord Pemberton supplies them at fair rates. We crush the raiders, secure the border. Everyone wins. 500 men? Kael's voice was cold. That's not enough to secure the north. It's barely enough to defend 3 towns. It's what we can afford, Sterling shot back. It's what you want us to afford. Send 500, lose them to an ambush, then demand more funds for reinforcements. Classic escalation strategy. Kael stood. Your Majesty, my brother commands the northern garrison. He's requesting 1,200 men minimum. Anything less is suicide. 1,200? The king looked pained. Lord Draven, the treasury can't support. Then let House Draven support it, Kael said. The room went still. You're offering to fund 1,200 soldiers? Ashford said slowly. I'm offering to fund proper defense of the realm. Unlike some families, we don't profit from the kingdom's suffering. Pemberton's face went purple. How dare you? Sit down, Pemberton. Everyone knows your eastern routes are price-gouging refugees from the north. Kael didn't raise his voice. Didn't need to. Your Majesty, House Draven will fund and supply 1,200 men. In return, we request command of the northern defense. Sterling surged to his feet. Absolutely not. Command stays with the King's Council. The King's Council that's been losing ground for 6 months? Kael's smile was sharp. No, this is a Draven offer. Our money, our command. Take it or leave it. The king looked between them, calculating, politics and survival warring on his face. Your Majesty, Genevieve spoke for the first time, her voice silk over steel. Perhaps we should consider Lord Draven's generous offer. After all, if his family is willing to shoulder the financial burden, the least we can do is grant them operational authority. Elara blinked. Genevieve was supporting them? Kale's hand squeezed hers again. Different signal. This is the trap. However, Genevieve continued, standing gracefully, such authority should come with accountability. If House Draven commands the North, they should bear full responsibility for failure, including financial restitution to the crown should the defense collapse. There it was. The poison in the honey. If they succeeded, House Draven gained military prestige. If they failed, they'd be bankrupted paying reparations. That's absurd. Catherine's voice came from the far end of the table where she sat as the Draven matriarch. No family should bear sole responsibility for defending the realm. No family should claim sole command without accepting the risks, Duke Ashford countered. He was Genevieve's father, backing her play. Lady Genevieve's proposal is fair. Authority and accountability must balance. The king nodded slowly. I agree. Lord Draven, if you accept full command, you accept full responsibility. Success or failure rests on House Draven alone. Kale was silent. Elara could see him thinking, calculating odds. Don't do it, Sterling said, voice dripping false concern. It's too much risk, Draven. Let the council handle— We accept, Kale said. Catherine's eyes widened. Sterling smiled. Genevieve looked satisfied. They'd been maneuvered into a corner. Win or lose everything. Excellent, the king said. Lord Draven, you have command of Northern Defense. 1,200 men, deployed within the month. May fortune favor you. The meeting continued, but Elara barely heard it. Her mind raced. They'd just bet the entire family fortune on Kael's ability to stop raids that everyone else had failed to stop. When the council finally ended, Kael walked out without speaking to anyone. Elara followed, feeling eyes track them. Outside, Catherine caught up to them in the corridor. What the hell were you thinking? I was thinking Sterling and Pemberton are setting us up. If we didn't take the offer, they'd control the North and bleed it dry. This way we have a chance. A chance to bankrupt the family? Catherine's voice was sharp. Do you have any idea what reparations would cost if you fail? I'm not going to fail. You can't know that. Yes, I can. Kale stopped walking, turned to face his mother. Because I'm not fighting the raiders. I'm fighting whoever's funding them. Catherine stared. You think this is organized? I know it is. The pattern is too clean. Someone's coordinating these raids, someone with money and motivation. We find them, we cut off the head, the body dies. And if you're wrong, then we lose everything. But I'm not wrong. Kale looked at Elara. Tell her, you saw it too. Elara nodded slowly. The raids hit trade hubs, specific ones, not random targets. Someone's trying to control northern commerce. Pemberton, Catherine said. That's the obvious answer, which means it's probably wrong. Kael started walking again. We have 3 weeks to figure out who's really behind this before the troops deploy. 3 weeks to turn a trap into a weapon. Back at Draven House, Kael locked himself in the strategy room. Elara tried to follow, but he waved her off. Not yet. I need to think. So she went to her room, paced, tried to process everything. A knock interrupted her spiral. Anna entered, carrying a sealed letter. This just arrived, my lady. Hand delivered. No return address. Expensive paper. Elara broke the seal. Lady Draven, we should talk. Somewhere private. There are things about your husband you need to know. Come to the Rose Garden in the lower city. Tonight, midnight. Come alone. A friend. Elara read it 3 times. Every instinct screamed trap. She went anyway. The Rose Garden was a tavern in the rough part of town where Elara had grown up. The kind of place where nobles didn't go and questions weren't asked. She wore a cloak, hood up, and took a public carriage instead of the Draven one. Inside, the air was thick with smoke and cheap alcohol. Men gambled in corners. Women laughed too loud at jokes that weren't funny. Nobody looked at her twice. A figure in the back booth raised a hand. Elara approached cautiously. Thomas. Her ex-fiancé looked terrible, bruises under his eyes, clothes rumpled. The confident man from the masquerade was gone. You came, he said. I'm here. Talk fast. Sit, please. When she didn't move, he sighed. I'm not going to hurt you, Elara. I just need to warn you. Warn me about what? Kyle Draven. Thomas leaned forward. Do you know what he did in the Northern Wars? The real story, not the hero version? I know he fought, won battles. He massacred civilians. Thomas's voice dropped. There was a village. The enemy was using it as cover. Draven was ordered to lay siege, starve them out. Instead, he burned it. Everyone inside. Women, children. Everyone. Elara's blood went cold. That's not... It's in the military reports, sealed but not well. I have copies. Thomas slid a folder across the table. He's a monster, Elara, and you married him. She didn't touch the folder. Why are you telling me this? Because He stopped, swallowed. Because I still care about you, despite everything. And I don't want you destroyed by that family. You care about me. Elara's voice was flat. You traded me for Genevieve's money, and you care? That was business. This is different. Everything with you is business, Thomas. She stood. I'm leaving. Wait. He grabbed her wrist. Not hard, but enough to stop her. There's more. Genevieve and her father, they're planning something. Something that involves Draven. I don't know details, but I heard them talking. They want him to fail in the north. They want House Draven destroyed. Let go of me. I'm serious. Whatever Kyle is walking into, it's worse than he thinks. Ashford has connections, resources. They're going to... The tavern door crashed open. 4 men entered, wearing Ashford house colors. Thomas went white. No, they weren't supposed to... The men spotted them, started forward. Run, Thomas hissed. Elara ran. Out the back door into an alley that stank of garbage, and worse. Footsteps pounded behind her, male voices shouting. She'd grown up in these streets, knew every twist, every shortcut. She ran through darkness, lungs burning, until she hit a dead end. The men caught up, surrounded her. Lady Draven, the largest one said. He had a scar across his nose and smiled like a wolf. Our employer wants a word. I'm not going anywhere with you. That wasn't a request. They closed in. Elara's hand found the knife Thorn had made her start carrying. Small blade, barely 3 inches. Thorn's voice in her head, you're smaller. Use that. Be faster. The big man reached for her. Elara moved, slashed at his reaching hand, got him across the knuckles. He yelled, jerked back. Grab her! They rushed her. She got one more cut in before they overpowered her. Someone yanked her hair. Someone else twisted her arm. The knife clattered to the cobblestones. A hand clamped over her mouth. Stop fighting or we hurt you worse. Then a shadow detached from the alley wall. Kyle hit the first man like a battering ram. The sound of bone breaking echoed off stone. The man dropped. The others released Elara, reaching for weapons. Too slow. Kale was efficient. No wasted movement. He broke one man's jaw with an elbow, disarmed another, put the third through a wall. The big man with the scarred nose pulled a knife. Stay back, Draven, or the girl... Kale threw something. It hit Scarface in the throat, a small blade, perfectly aimed. The man collapsed, choking. Silence. 4 men down, Kale breathing hard but steady. He turned to Elara. Are you hurt? No, how did you... I followed you. Did you really think I wouldn't notice you leaving? He pulled her to her feet, not gently. What were you thinking, meeting Thomas alone? He said he had information. It was a trap, obviously. Kale kicked the groaning big man. Who sent you? The man spat blood. Go to hell. Kale stepped on his broken hand. The man screamed. Who sent you? Ashford, the man gasped. Duke Ashford. He wanted her alive. Hostage. Kale's expression went cold. He released the man's hand. Get out of my city. If I see Ashford colors again, I'll kill everyone wearing them. The men scrambled away, dragging their wounded. Kale grabbed Elara's arm. We're leaving, now. He pulled her through the streets. Not toward the main roads, deeper into the lower city, through passages she'd forgotten existed. Finally into a safe house, small and dark. He locked the door, turned on her. You could have been killed. I can handle myself. 4 armed men in an alley? You can't handle that. His voice was harsh. You're not ready for this. Not yet. Then when will I be ready? After they kill me. After you stop being reckless. Cale paced. Thomas baited you. Ashford planned it. They wanted you scared or dead, or preferably both. And you walked right into it. Thomas warned me. About you. Elara's voice shook. About the village. The civilians you burned. Cale went still. He told you that. Is it true? Silence stretched. Outside, the city murmured. Yes, Cale said finally. The word hit like a fist. There was a village, he continued, voice flat. The enemy was using it. They had supplies, weapons, hostages. I was ordered to siege it, starve them out. It would have taken months. My men were dying daily. So I made a choice. You burned children. I burned enemy combatants who were using children as shields. I gave warning. Told civilians to evacuate, most did, some didn't. That's on them. He met her eyes. I don't regret it. I saved my soldiers. That was my job. How can you... Elara's voice broke. How can you not regret burning people alive? Because regret doesn't bring them back. Regret just makes you weak. I did what needed doing. I'd do it again. Cale's voice was cold, empty. That's what you married. A man who makes hard choices and lives with them. If you can't handle that, there's the door. Elara stared at him. This stranger wearing her husband's face. I need air, she said. She left, walked into the night. Kept walking until she found herself at the docks, watching water lap against stone. Was this who she'd allied herself with? A man who burned villages and felt nothing? But wasn't that exactly what she needed? Someone ruthless enough to fight the vipers at court? She thought of Thomas. How he'd used her, discarded her, then tried to save her when it suited him. How he'd sent her into a trap while pretending to care. Cale had followed her, saved her, been honest about what he was. Honesty, that's what he'd offered. Not morality, not comfort, just truth. Footsteps behind her. She didn't turn. You should go back to the house, Cale's voice. In a minute. He stood beside her, silent for a long time. I'm not a good man, he said finally. I don't pretend to be. I do what's necessary. Sometimes that's monstrous. But I protect what's mine. And you're mine now. That means something. What does it mean? It means I'd burn 100 villages before I let anyone hurt you. Whether that makes you feel safe or terrified is up to you. Elara looked at him, really looked. The scars, the hard eyes, the man who'd built walls so high nothing got through. I'm not scared of you, she said. You should be. I'm scared of what we're walking into. The North, Ashford's plan, all of it. She turned back to the water. But not you. You're just necessary, like you said. That's the nicest thing anyone said to me in years. Despite everything, Elara almost smiled. We're a mess. Yes, but we're a mess that's going to survive this. Cale pulled something from his coat, the folder Thomas had tried to give her. He dropped this when he ran. Want to know what's really in it? Proof you're a monster. Proof Ashford's been funding the northern raids. Cale opened it. Documents spilled out. Ledgers, contracts, payments to mercenary groups. Thomas was trying to warn you about the wrong thing. Or maybe the right thing for the wrong reasons. Elara scanned the papers. Her hands started shaking. The evidence was clear. Duke Ashford had orchestrated everything. The raids, the pressure on the crown, the council trap. All of it designed to destroy House Draven while profiting from northern chaos. He's going to destroy us, she whispered. He's going to try. We have 3 weeks to stop him. Cale closed the folder. Question is, are you still in? Elara thought about walking away. Going back to nothing. Being safe and small and invisible. Then she thought about Genevieve's smile. Thomas's betrayal. Ashford's men in that alley. She thought about power. Real power. The kind that made people think twice before trying to erase you. I'm in, she said. But we do this my way. Your way? You want to fight Ashford head on. Military. Straightforward, that's what he expects. Elara's mind was already racing. But Ashford has a weakness. His daughter. Genevieve wants to marry up. Social climbing is her life. What if we destroy that? Cale's eyes narrowed. How? Thomas. He's engaged to her. He's also clearly working with her father on something. What if we expose him? Show the court he's just Ashford's puppet? That he's using stolen ideas, my ideas, to pretend he's successful? Elara felt the plan crystallizing. We humiliate Genevieve publicly. Make her a laughingstock. Ashford loses face. His allies question his judgment. We create an opening. That's vicious. You burn villages. I destroy reputations. We all have our talents. She met his gaze. Can it work? Cale was quiet. Then he smiled, genuinely smiled. Yes, it can work. But we'll need proof. Hard proof that Thomas stole your work. I know where he keeps his files. His office in the merchant district. Then we're breaking in tonight. They moved through the city like ghosts. Elara led them to Thomas's office, a modest building near the trading houses. The locks were simple. Cale had them open in seconds. Inside, papers everywhere, contracts, proposals, all in Thomas's handwriting, except they weren't. Elara found them in the bottom drawer, her original notes, her handwriting, her ideas, transcribed into his proposals, word for word. This is it, she breathed. This proves everything. A floorboard creaked behind them. They spun. Thomas stood in the doorway, holding a pistol. I knew you'd come, he said. His hand shook. I'm sorry, Elara, but they have my family, my mother, my sister. Ashford said if I don't stop you. Thomas, put the gun down, Elara said. I can't. Tears ran down his face. You don't understand what he'll do to them. Cale moved, lightning fast, got between Elara and the gun. Cale, don't. The shot was deafening in the small space. Cale stumbled. Blood bloomed across his shoulder. Thomas stared at the gun like it had bitten him. I wasn't. Cale lunged, grabbed Thomas, slammed him against the wall. Cale, stop! Elara pulled at his arm. He's not worth it. For a long moment, Cale held Thomas by the throat, murder in his eyes. Then he released him. Thomas collapsed, sobbing. We're taking the documents, Cale said, pressing a hand to his bleeding shoulder. You're going to tell Ashford you scared us off. If you don't, I'll tell the court about his family hostages, and every merchant in the city will turn on him. Understand? Thomas nodded frantically. They gathered the documents and left. Outside, Elara tore fabric from her cloak to bind Cale's wound. You're bleeding badly. I've had worse. His face was pale but determined. We have what we need. Tomorrow, we end this. But as they walked through the dark streets, Elara saw shadows moving, following. Ashford knew, and he was coming for them. The shadows followed them for 3 blocks before Cale stopped walking. How many? Elara whispered. 6, maybe 8. His voice was tight with pain, hand still pressed to his bleeding shoulder. Too many to fight in my condition. Then we run. They'll chase. We need somewhere defensible. Cale's eyes scanned the dark streets. There, the old garrison, 2 blocks east. They moved quickly, not quite running, but close. Behind them, footsteps echoed, not bothering to hide anymore. The hunters knew their prey was wounded. The garrison was a relic from older wars, half collapsed but still solid where it mattered. Cale led them through a gap in the wall, into a courtyard choked with weeds. A stone building loomed at the back, its door hanging crooked. Inside, darkness and the smell of rot. Cale found a room with 1 entrance, defensible. He shoved furniture against the door while Elara tore more fabric for his wound. Let me see, she said. He shrugged out of his coat. The shirt underneath was soaked red. The bullet had gone through, at least. No need to dig it out. But the wound was ugly, bleeding steadily. Elara worked quickly, binding it tight. Her hands shook. This needs a real physician. Later. If there is a later. Cale tested his arm, grimaced. I can still fight. Maybe. Against 8 men? I've faced worse odds. When you weren't bleeding out. A crash outside. The hunters had found them. Kale drew his sword with his good arm. Stay behind me. If they break through, I know. Run. I'm not an idiot. Elara pulled her small knife. Still had blood on it from the alley. But I'm not running. Elara, we're in this together. You said so yourself. Partners. She met his eyes. So let's partner. Heavy footsteps in the corridor, voices conferring, then silence. The door exploded inward, furniture scattered. 3 men rushed in, weapons drawn. Kael met the first one, blade singing. Even wounded, he was fast. The man went down screaming. The second hesitated. Fatal mistake. Kael's sword found his throat. The third lunged at Elara. She ducked under his swing, came up slashing, got him across the face. He howled, stumbled back. More men poured in. Too many. They forced Kyle back, surrounding him. Someone grabbed Elara from behind, arm around her throat. Drop the sword, Draven, or we snap her neck. Kael's blade didn't waver. You'll die first. Maybe, but she'll still be dead. The standoff held, seconds stretched. Then a new voice cut through the tension. Everyone stop moving, or I'll put arrows through all of you. A woman stood in the doorway, bow drawn. Behind her, a dozen soldiers in Draven colors. She was tall, dark-haired, with Kael's gray eyes and a scar that cut through her left eyebrow. Mira, Kael breathed. His sister, the one he'd said Elara could trust. Drop him, Mira said to the man holding Elara. Now. The man released her, backed away slowly. All of you, out. Tell Ashford if he wants war with House Draven, he can bring an army next time instead of sending thugs. Mira's aim didn't waver. You have 10 seconds before I start shooting. They ran, all of them scrambling over each other to escape. Mira lowered her bow. Kael, you look like hell. Been a rough night. He swayed slightly. Elara caught him. Get him to the carriage, Mira ordered her soldiers. And someone fetch a physician to the house, quickly. The next hours blurred together. The ride back to Draven House. Catherine's fury when she saw Kael's condition. The physician working by candlelight, stitching and bandaging while Kael drank whiskey and refused to admit it hurt. Elara sat in the corner, still holding the documents they'd stolen, still feeling the ghost of that man's arm around her throat. When the physician finally left, Catherine rounded on them. What were you thinking? We were thinking we needed proof, Kael said. His voice was rough from the whiskey. We got it. You almost got killed. Almost doesn't count. He gestured to Elara. Show her. Elara spread the documents on the table. Her original notes, Thomas's copied proposals, the contract signatures that proved he'd sold her work as his own. Catherine studied them in silence. This proves theft, but how does it help us? It destroys Thomas's credibility, Elara said, which destroys Genevieve's engagement, which humiliates Ashford in front of the court. And humiliated men make mistakes. You want to provoke him. I want to make him angry enough to overreach, show everyone what he really is. Elara's voice steadied. The council meeting is in 2 days. We present this evidence. Thomas is revealed as a fraud. Genevieve's judgment is questioned. Ashford loses face and allies. And then? Catherine's eyes were sharp. Then we have breathing room to handle the North, to expose his involvement in the raids, to turn his trap back on him. Elara met her gaze. But we need to move fast, before he realizes what we have. Mira had been quiet, listening. Now she spoke. I like it. It's ruthless, strategic. She looked at Elara with new respect. You're not what I expected. What did you expect? Someone softer, easier to break. Mira smiled. I'm glad I was wrong. Over the next 2 days, they prepared. Elara worked with Catherine to organize the evidence into something presentable. Mira drilled her on court protocol, on how to speak before the king without showing weakness. They'll try to dismiss you, Mira warned. Talk over you. Act like you're decoration. Don't let them. Stand your ground. Make them listen. Kael recovered slowly. The wound was serious but clean. He pushed himself too hard, too fast, until Catherine ordered him to rest. I need to be ready for the council, he argued. You'll be ready. But if you tear those stitches, the physician said you'll bleed out. So sit down. Catherine's tone left no room for argument. The night before the council, Elara couldn't sleep. She stood at her window, watching the city lights flicker in the distance. A knock at the connecting door. Kael entered, arm in a sling but moving better. "Can't sleep either?" he asked. "Too much in my head." He joined her at the window. They stood in silence for a while. "Thank you," he said finally, "for not running. In the garrison." "I thought about it." "I know, but you didn't." He glanced at her. "Most people would have." "I'm not most people. Not anymore." Elara touched the ring on her finger. "You've made me dangerous. I'm not sure how I feel about that." "Dangerous is better than powerless." "Is it? Dangerous people burn villages, shoot first, never look back." "Only if they're stupid about it." Kael's voice was quiet. "Real power isn't violence. It's knowing when to use it and when to use everything else. You're learning that faster than I did." "You really don't regret any of it? The things you've done?" "Some of it. The parts where I didn't have a choice? No. The parts where I had a choice and chose wrong, yes." He met her eyes. "That village? I had a choice. I stand by it. But there was a soldier once, under my command. Good man. Brave. He questioned an order. I had him flogged for insubordination. He died from infection 3 days later." Kael's jaw tightened. "That one I regret. I could have handled it differently." "Didn't." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because tomorrow you're going to hurt people. Thomas, Genevieve, their families, and I don't want you carrying that weight thinking you had no choice. You do. You could let this go. Walk away." He turned to face her fully. "I'm giving you that option now, before it's too late to go back." Elara thought about it, really thought. About Thomas, who'd used her and discarded her. About Genevieve, who'd smiled while trying to destroy her. About Ashford, who'd sent men to kidnap or kill her in an alley. About the woman she'd been, small, grateful for scraps, invisible. About the woman she was becoming, dangerous, calculating, seen. "No," she said. "I'm not walking away. Tomorrow we burn them all." Kael nodded slowly. "Then get some rest. You'll need it." The council chamber was packed. Word had spread that House Draven was bringing new evidence about the northern situation. Every noble family had sent representatives. The gallery was filled with observers, merchants, minor nobles, anyone who could claim a reason to be there. Elara walked in beside Kael, head high, wearing armor disguised as a dress. Black silk with silver threading that caught the light like steel. Catherine had helped her choose it. "Look like a weapon," she'd said. "Make them see the blade." Thomas and Genevieve sat together on the far side, looking confident. Duke Ashford stood behind his daughter, hand on her shoulder. Lord Stirling and Pemberton flanked them, a united front. The king entered. Everyone rose, bowed, sat. "We reconvene to discuss northern defense," the king began. "Lord Draven, you've requested time to present additional evidence." "I have, Your Majesty." Kael stood, slightly favoring his wounded shoulder. "But I yield the floor to my wife. This evidence is hers." Every eye turned to Elara. She stood, fought to keep her voice steady. "Your Majesty, honored lords and ladies, I come before you today to address a theft." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. 3 months ago, I developed a comprehensive plan for Eastern trade route optimization. The plan included new tariff structures, shipping schedules, and merchant partnerships. This plan was stolen by Thomas Harwell, who presented it as his own work to gain favor with Lord Pemberton and secure an engagement to Lady Genevieve Ashford. Thomas surged to his feet. "That's a lie." "Sit down, Mr. Harwell," the king said coldly. "But, Your Majesty, she's—" "I said sit!" Thomas sat, face purple with rage. Elara continued, hands only slightly shaking as she held up the first document. "I have proof. Original notes in my handwriting. Drafts showing the evolution of the plan. And Mr. Harwell's final proposals, which are word-for-word copies of my work." She passed the documents to a clerk who brought them to the king. He studied them, face unreadable. "These could be forgeries," Ashford said smoothly. "A scorned woman seeking revenge? They're not forgeries," Elara cut him off. "The paper can be dated, the ink tested, and I can explain every calculation, every decision, Every alternative I considered and rejected. Can Mr. Harwell do the same? All eyes turned to Thomas. He looked at Genevieve, at Ashford. The lady assisted with some aspects, but the core concepts were mine. What's the tariff rate you proposed for grain shipments over 50 tons? Elara asked. That is, 12%, graduated to 8% for contracts over 6 months. I chose that rate because it balances immediate revenue against long-term partnership incentives. Why did you choose it, Mr. Harwell? Silence. The shipping schedule, Elara pressed. Why route vessels through Blackwater Port instead of directly to the capital? Because Blackwater has lower docking fees and faster customs processing. The time saved offsets the longer route. You didn't know that, did you? Because you didn't create this plan. You stole it. The chamber erupted. Voices shouting. The king pounded his fist on the table. Order! When the noise died down, Genevieve stood. Her face was pale but composed. Your Majesty, even if Mr. Harwell used Lady Draven's work, that's a private matter between them. It has no bearing on our engagement or my family's standing. Doesn't it? Cale's voice cut through the room. Your judgment is in question, Lady Genevieve. You accepted an engagement to a man whose entire reputation is built on fraud. Either you knew and were complicit, or you didn't know and you're a fool. Which is it? Genevieve's composure cracked. How dare you? Furthermore, Cale continued, this fraud was used to secure contracts with Lord Pemberton. Contracts that are now legally questionable. Lord Pemberton, did you sign agreements based on Mr. Harwell's stolen work? Pemberton's face went red. I was deceived. You were sloppy. You didn't verify. You trusted a fraud because his fiancé had the right bloodline. Cale's smile was sharp. How many other contracts are similarly tainted? How much of your Eastern trade empire is built on foundations of lies? This is absurd, Ashford's voice boomed. You're using slander and innuendo to— I'm using evidence, Elara said. Her voice carried across the chamber, stronger now. Evidence that shows a pattern. Thomas Harwell stealing my work, Duke Ashford elevating him without proper vetting, Lord Pemberton signing contracts without verification. All of you cutting corners, bending rules because you thought you could, because you thought a woman from the lower city wouldn't fight back. She stepped forward. Let them see her, really see her. I'm not invisible anymore, and I won't be erased. Every decision I made, every strategy I created, it has my name on it now, in front of the king, in front of this council. Try to take credit for my work again, and I'll drag you through every court in the kingdom until everyone knows exactly who you are. The silence was absolute. The king leaned back in his chair, studying Elara with new interest. Lord Ashford, do you have any response to these accusations? Ashford's jaw worked. The girl is clearly bitter about her broken engagement. Answer the question. Did you verify Thomas Harwell's credentials before arranging your daughter's engagement? The young man came recommended. By whom? Ashford hesitated. Too long. By several reputable sources. Name them. Lord Stirling, for one. Stirling stood quickly. I made no such recommendation. I barely know the boy. Ashford's face went white. He was being abandoned, left to twist in the wind. Lord Pemberton? The king asked. Did you verify these contracts? Pemberton wouldn't meet his eyes. I trusted Lord Ashford's judgment. Then you're both fools. The king's voice was ice. This council exists to serve the kingdom, not to play games with fraudulent merchants and stolen ideas. Mr. Harwell, you're stripped of all contracts and barred from royal trade. Lady Genevieve, your engagement is dissolved by crown authority. Lord Ashford, you will personally audit every agreement signed in the last 6 months and report any improprieties. Fail to do so, and House Ashford will answer directly to me. Genevieve made a small, broken sound. Thomas just stared at the floor. As for you, Lady Draven, the king continued, and Elara's heart stopped. Your evidence is compelling. Your presentation was clear and well-reasoned. I'm appointing you to the King's Council as an advisor on trade and strategy. Your first task is to review Lord Pemberton's Eastern contracts and recommend reforms. The chamber exploded again, voices shouting in approval and outrage. Elara couldn't breathe, couldn't process. She'd just been given power, real power. Official recognition. Kale touched her elbow. "Breathe," he murmured. "You earned this." Catherine was smiling, actually smiling. Mira nodded from the gallery, respect clear on her face. Across the room, Ashford looked like he'd been gutted. Genevieve was crying, trying to hide it. Thomas had his head in his hands. They'd won. Not completely. The northern situation still loomed. Ashford still had resources and allies. But this was a start. A foothold. Proof that Elara could fight and win. The meeting continued. Discussions about the northern deployment, timelines, supply chains. Elara participated, surprised when nobles actually listened to her suggestions, surprised when the king asked her opinion on troop placement and nodded at her response. When the council finally ended, Ashford tried to leave quickly. Kyle intercepted him. "We're not done, Duke." "I have nothing to say to you, Draven." "Then listen." Kale's voice was low enough that only Ashford, Elara, and a few nearby nobles heard. "I know about the northern raids. I know you're funding them, and I'm going to prove it. You're insane. I would never save it. You made a mistake tonight. You panicked, threw Thomas and your own daughter under the carriage to save yourself. That's going to cost you." Kale leaned closer. "Your allies are watching. They saw you abandon family to protect your reputation. They're wondering, when will he abandon us? That doubt? That's your death sentence. You just don't know it yet." Ashford's face was stone. "You have no proof of anything." "Not yet. But I will. And when I do, I won't bring it to the council. I'll bring it to the king, privately, and you'll disappear so quietly people will forget you ever existed." Kyle walked away. Elara followed, adrenaline still singing through her veins. Outside the palace, a crowd had gathered. Word had spread fast. Nobles from minor houses, merchants, even common folk who'd somehow heard about the lower city girl who'd stood up to a duke. They parted as Elara and Kyle walked through. Some stared, some whispered, a few nodded respectfully. In the carriage, Elara finally let herself shake. "That actually worked. You sound surprised." "I am. I thought—" She laughed, slightly hysterical. "I thought they'd laugh at me, dismiss me, throw me out." "They tried. You didn't let them." Kyle was smiling. "You were magnificent, terrifying, honestly. Remind me never to cross you." "Too late. You already married me. You're stuck." "Tragic." But he was still smiling. Back at Draven House, Catherine met them at the door with wine and something that might have been pride on her stern face. "The king's advisor," she said. "Not bad for your first week as a duchess." "I'm still processing." "Process later. Celebrate now. Tomorrow we plan for the north." Catherine poured 3 glasses. "But tonight, we acknowledge that House Draven just became significantly more powerful, and our enemies just learned that underestimating you is fatal." They drank. The wine was sweet and burned going down. Mira arrived an hour later with news from her sources. Ashford's allies are distancing themselves. Sterling claimed in 3 different conversations that he barely knows the Duke. Pemberton is blaming Ashford for his contract problems. Vale is pretending the whole thing never happened. "Rats fleeing a sinking ship," Catherine observed. "More like sharks smelling blood." Mira's smile was sharp. "They'll turn on him if we give them reason." "Then let's give them reason," Kale said. "The northern deployment leaves in 10 days. I want evidence of Ashford's involvement before then. Hard evidence, something we can use." "I'll handle it," Mira said. "I have contacts near the border. If money's flowing from Ashford to the raiders, we'll find the trail." Over the next week, Elara settled into her new role. She attended council meetings, reviewed contracts, made recommendations that were actually implemented. Nobles who'd ignored her before now sought her advice. Merchants who'd looked through her now bowed. It was intoxicating and terrifying. "Don't let it go to your head," Catherine warned one evening as they reviewed trade documents. "Power is a drug. It makes you stupid if you let it." "How do you avoid that?" "Remember where you came from. Remember what it felt like to be powerless. Use that to stay sharp." Catherine's eyes were knowing. "The moment you start thinking you're invincible is the moment someone proves you're not." The warning came at the right time, because 3 days before the northern deployment, everything went wrong. Mira returned from the border with evidence, payment ledgers linking Ashford to the raiders, solid proof that would destroy him. She also brought news the raids had stopped, completely. No attacks in over a week. They know we're coming, Kyle said, studying maps in the strategy room. They're pulling back, waiting. For what? Elara asked. For us to overextend, deploy our forces, then hit us somewhere else. He traced a route on the map. The southern trade routes. If we're committed north, the south is vulnerable. So we split our forces? No, we faked the deployment. Kale's eyes were bright. We make a show of sending troops north, but the bulk of our forces go south, disguised as merchants. When the raiders hit, and they will, we're waiting. That's brilliant, Mira said, but it requires perfect timing and trust that your theory is correct. It's correct. Kale looked at Elara. You see it too, don't you? The pattern? She did. The raids had been testing responses, drawing attention north while weakening the south. Classic misdirection. We need the king's approval, she said. He won't like changing the plan this late. Then convince him. You're his advisor now. Advise. The next day, Elara stood before the king in a private audience. Just the two of them, no counsel, no witnesses. You think Lord Draven's plan will work? The king asked. I think it's the only plan that accounts for our enemy's actual strategy. The northern raids were never the real threat. They were bait. And you're certain of this? As certain as I can be without seeing the future, Your Majesty. Elara met his eyes. But I've been wrong before. If I'm wrong now, House Draven bears the consequences. That was the deal. The king studied her for a long moment. You've changed this court, you know, in just 2 weeks. Made the old families nervous. Made me think differently about who deserves power. I just want to survive, Your Majesty. No. You want more than that. You want to win. I respect that. He stood. Deploy Lord Draven's plan. If it works, House Draven gets permanent control of southern defense. If it fails, we lose everything. I know. Good. Then make sure it works. 5 days later, the trap was set. Draven forces marched north in full view, banners flying, armor gleaming, but the real army was already south, hidden among merchant caravans and trade wagons. Elara waited at Draven House with Catherine, watching reports come in. Mira was with the southern forces. Kyle commanded them personally, wounded shoulder and all. 2 days of silence. Then, on the third day, a rider came at dawn. Elara met him in the courtyard, Catherine beside her. Report, Catherine commanded. The rider was covered in road dust, exhausted. They came at midnight, 300 raiders hitting the southern warehouses. We were ready. Caught them between our forces and the city guard. He smiled. Complete victory. Maybe 20 escaped. The rest dead or captured. And Lord Draven? Alive. He's interrogating prisoners now. Says to tell Lady Draven. The rider looked at Elara. That she was right. The prisoners confirm Ashford's involvement. We have names, dates, payment records, everything. Elara felt her knees go weak. They'd done it. Actually done it. Catherine laughed. A real laugh, loud and fierce. Send word to the king. House Draven requests an emergency council session. Tell him we have traitors to expose. The council session 2 days later was the most attended in decades. Everyone wanted to see what House Draven had discovered. Kale presented the evidence himself, his arm still in a sling, but his voice strong. Payment records, signed orders, testimony from captured raiders naming Duke Ashford as their patron. The evidence was overwhelming, incontrovertible. Ashford didn't even try to deny it. He just sat silent, face gray, while his world collapsed. Duke Ashford, the king's voice was cold as winter. You are charged with treason, conspiracy against the crown, funding enemy forces. Do you have anything to say? Ashford stood slowly. For a moment, Elara thought he might fight, might rage, might go down screaming. Instead, he just looked tired. I did what I thought necessary to maintain order, to protect the kingdom from families like Draven who seize power through violence and manipulation. You funded raids that killed my citizens, the king said. You put the kingdom at risk for political games. That's not protection. That's treachery. Then I'm guilty. Ashford's voice was flat. Do what you will. The king stood. Duke Ashford. You are stripped of your title, lands, and holdings. You and your family are exiled from the kingdom. You have 1 week to leave. If you're found within our borders after that, the penalty is death." Genevieve gasped. Lady Ashford, silent until now, began to cry. But the Duke just nodded. "As you command, Your Majesty." As they led him away, Ashford's eyes found Elara. No hatred in them, just recognition, one player acknowledging another. Then he was gone. The king turned to Kael. "Lord Draven, in recognition of your service, I'm appointing you Lord Marshal of the realm. You will oversee all military defense north and south." Kael bowed. "Your Majesty honors me. Don't make me regret it." The king's gaze shifted to Elara. "Lady Draven, your strategies saved the southern territories. Your evidence exposed a traitor. I'm elevating your position from advisor to chief strategist of the King's Council. You will report directly to me on all matters of trade, defense, and internal security." The room erupted, nobles shouting approval and outrage in equal measure. Elara stood, bowed. "I will serve faithfully, Your Majesty." As the council dissolved into chaos, Kael took her hand under the table, squeezed once. They'd done it. Against every odd, every expectation, every person who'd tried to erase them. They'd won. The celebration at Draven House that night felt wrong. Servants poured wine. Catherine toasted their victory. Mira recounted the southern battle with animated gestures. Everything should have felt triumphant. They'd exposed a traitor, secured military control, elevated their position beyond anything Elara had imagined possible. But she couldn't shake the image of Ashford's face, that tired acceptance, like he'd been playing a game he knew he'd eventually lose. "You're quiet," Kael said, finding her on the terrace away from the noise inside. "Just thinking." "About?" "How easy it was. At the end." Elara turned to face him. "Ashford just gave up. No fight, no last desperate move. A man that powerful, that connected, he just accepted exile?" Kael was silent for a moment. "You think it's not over?" "I think we won the battle. But the war—" She shook her head. "Ashford had allies, resources, people who owe him favors. They don't just disappear because the king stripped his title." "You're learning." Kael leaned against the stone railing. "Most people would be celebrating. You're already thinking 3 moves ahead." "Isn't that what you taught me?" "It is. I'm just surprised how fast you picked it up." He looked at her, really looked at her. "You've changed. In just a few weeks. You're not the woman I found at that masquerade." "Is that good or bad?" "It's necessary. But it comes with a cost. The more you win, the more enemies you make. The higher you climb, the harder the fall." His voice was quiet. "I worry you're ascending too fast. That when you finally hit something that can't be solved with strategy or intelligence, it'll break you. Then I won't hit it. Everyone hits it eventually. That's the nature of power. You keep reaching until you grab something that bites back hard enough to take your hand off." Kael's expression was unreadable. "I just hope when it happens, I'm there to help you survive it." Before Elara could respond, Catherine appeared in the doorway. "You two need to come inside, now." Her tone killed the celebration atmosphere instantly. They followed her to the study where a messenger waited, young, terrified, covered in mud. "Report," Catherine commanded. The messenger swallowed hard. "There's been an incident at the exile convoy. Duke Ashford was being transported to the border with his family. They were attacked on the road." Elara's stomach dropped. "By who?" "Unknown assailants, masked. They killed the guards and took Lady Genevieve." The messenger's hands shook. The Duke and his wife were left alive with a message. For Lady Draven. He handed Elara a sealed letter. Blood stained the wax. She broke it open. The handwriting was elegant, educated. "Lady Draven, congratulations on your victory. You've proven yourself cleverer than anticipated. But every game has consequences. Lady Genevieve is currently my guest. If you want her returned unharmed, you'll publicly recant your testimony against Duke Ashford, restore his position. Admit your evidence was fabricated. You have 48 hours. Fail to comply, and I'll send her back to her father one piece at a time. Regards, a friend, no signature." But the implication was clear, someone powerful enough to organize an armed attack on a royal convoy. Someone who wanted Ashford restored. Sterling, Kael said, reading over her shoulder. Has to be. He loses his military influence if I control defense. He needs Ashford back to maintain his position. Or Pemberton, Mira added. His trade empire collapses if Elara reforms the eastern routes. He needs the old corrupt system. Could be both, Catherine said grimly. Could be a dozen nobles who profit from chaos. The real question is, what are you going to do about it? Every eye turned to Elara. We find her, Elara said, and we make whoever took her regret being born. 48 hours isn't much time, Mira said, and they could be anywhere. The kingdom is large. Hiding places they're not far. Elara's mind was already working. They need to be close enough to deliver her pieces if we refuse. That means within a day's ride of the capital, probably somewhere secure, isolated. That's still a lot of territory, Kael said. Not if we narrow it down. Who has properties that fit those criteria? Who could hide a kidnapped noblewoman without their household staff talking? Elara grabbed a map from Catherine's desk. We make a list, cross-reference it with families who benefit from Ashford's restoration. Find the intersection. They worked through the night, lists of properties, family connections, financial records showing who owed whom. By dawn, they had 3 possibilities. Sterling's hunting lodge in the northern woods, Mira said, pointing to the map. Isolated. His personal guard stationed there. No outside staff. Pemberton's warehouse complex south of the city, Catherine added. He owns the whole district, controls who comes and goes. And Lord Vale's country estate, Elara said quietly. He's been quiet through all of this. Too quiet. And he's drowning in debt, the kind that makes men desperate. Vale? Kael frowned. He's weak. Wouldn't have the spine for kidnapping. Weak people do terrible things when they're cornered, and someone's been feeding him money. Look at these ledgers. His debt should have crushed him months ago, but he's still solvent. Elara traced the numbers. Someone's keeping him alive. In exchange for what? Loyalty, Catherine said slowly. A voice in council who votes the right way. Property that can be used for exactly this kind of thing. We need to search all 3 locations, Mira said, but we can't move officially. If we're wrong, it tips them off. If we're right but they see us coming, Genevieve dies. Then we move unofficially, Kael said. Small teams. No Draven colors. We look like bandits, mercenaries, anything but what we are. I'm coming with you, Elara said. Absolutely not. She's my responsibility. This happened because of my testimony. I'm not sitting here safe while someone else risks their life. Elara's voice was steel. Besides, I know these people. Their patterns. I might see something you miss. Kael looked like he wanted to argue. Then he saw her expression and sighed. Fine. But you stay back during any fighting. You're not trained for combat. I've been practicing with Thorn every day. For 2 weeks. That doesn't make you a soldier. He grabbed weapons from a cabinet. Mira, take the Sterling Lodge. I'll take Pemberton's warehouses. Mother, coordinate from here. Elara comes with me. They rode out in the gray pre-dawn light. 6 of them, Kael, Elara, and 4 trusted soldiers in unmarked clothing. The southern warehouse district was a maze of buildings where Pemberton stored goods before shipping them east. Legitimate business fronting a corrupt empire. They approached on foot, leaving the horses a mile out. The warehouses loomed in the early light, hulking shadows against a gray sky. There, one of the soldiers whispered, pointing. Guards on that building, more than usual for a warehouse. How many? Kael asked. 8 outside. Unknown inside. We go quiet. No killing unless necessary. We need information, and dead men don't talk. Kael looked at Elara. You stay here with Marcus. If anything goes wrong, I run. I know. Elara hated it, but she understood. She'd be a liability in a fight. Kael and 3 soldiers moved like ghosts. Within minutes, 2 guards were unconscious, dragged into shadows. The others never noticed. They breached the door. Elara heard shouts, the sound of fighting. Then silence. Too much silence. Marcus tensed beside her. Something's wrong. Then Kael appeared in the doorway, and his face told her everything. Not here. Building's empty except for normal inventory. This was a decoy. Elara's heart sank. 1 location down, 2 to go. and time slipping away. They rode hard for Vale's estate, arriving as the sun reached its peak. The country manor was smaller than expected, a fading relic of former wealth. Overgrown gardens, peeling paint, the decay of a family drowning in debt. But there were fresh wagon tracks in the mud, recent arrivals. There, Elara said, pointing to a stone building separate from the main house. That's a wine cellar, underground, perfect for hiding someone. Kael studied it. 6 guards visible, probably more inside. We don't have time for quiet, Elara said. If they see us coming, they'll kill her. We need a distraction. What kind of distraction? Elara thought fast. Me. I'll go to the front door. Demand to speak with Lord Vale. While they're focused on me, you breach the cellar. That's insane. It's also the only play we have. Elara dismounted. They won't hurt me immediately. I'm too valuable. The king's chief strategist attacks his property? Vale would use that against us. He'll want to talk, negotiate. That gives you time. Kael looked like he wanted to refuse, but he knew she was right. 5 minutes, he said. That's all you get. Then we're coming in regardless. Elara straightened her cloak and walked to the front door. Knocked loudly. A servant answered, elderly, nervous. Lady Draven, I wasn't aware Lord Vale was expecting. He's not. But we need to speak. Urgently. Elara pushed past him into the entry hall. Where is he? The study, but my lady, you can't just... She was already walking. Found the study, a cluttered room smelling of old paper and desperation. Vale sat behind a desk covered in documents, his thin face startled. Lady Draven, this is unexpected. We need to talk about Lady Genevieve Ashford. Vale's expression flickered, fear, calculation. I don't know what you're... Yes, you do. She was taken from the exile convoy. Whoever took her is keeping her somewhere secure, somewhere isolated, somewhere like here. Elara stepped closer. Give her back, Vale, before this gets worse. I have no idea what you're talking about. But his hand shook. You should leave. You're trespassing. Am I? Or am I investigating a kidnapping on behalf of the crown? Elara gambled. You're in over your head. Someone promised you money, power, if you help them. But they're using you. When this collapses, you'll take the fall while they walk away clean. Get out, Vale's voice cracked. Get out, or I'll have you removed. Footsteps behind her, guards entering the study. But before they could grab her, an explosion shook the building. The cellar. Kyle had breached it. Chaos erupted. Guards running toward the sound. Vale shouting orders. Elara used the confusion to slip past them, following the guards toward the cellar entrance. The stone door had been blown off its hinges. Smoke poured out. Inside, sounds of fighting, steel on steel, men shouting. Elara grabbed a fallen guard's dagger and descended into darkness. The cellar was a warren of stone chambers. She followed the sounds of combat, heart pounding, until she burst into a large room. Kael fought 3 men, wounded but holding. His soldiers engaged others. And in the corner, chained to the wall, Genevieve, bruised, terrified, but alive. Elara ran to her. Are you hurt? They didn't... I'm okay. Genevieve's eyes were wide. Why are you helping me? Because this isn't about us anymore. It's about stopping the people who think they can do this and get away with it. Elara worked at the chains. Who took you? Who's behind this? I don't know. They wore masks, but I heard them talking, something about sending a message, about how the old families need to remind the new ones who really holds power. A sword whistled past Elara's head. She ducked, turned. A masked figure stood in the doorway, tall, broad-shouldered, holding a blade. Step away from the girl, a voice said, muffled by the mask but educated. Noble. No. Elara stood, putting herself between Genevieve and the figure. Brave, stupid, but brave. The figure advanced. You should have recanted, played your part. Instead, you had to dig deeper, had to prove you were clever. Take off the mask. Let's see who you really are. Why? So you can expose me like you did Ashford? I think not. The blade leveled at her. You're young. You think winning a few battles makes you untouchable, but power isn't a game you win. It's a game you survive, and you haven't survived long enough to understand the real rules. Kael appeared behind the figure. Drop the sword. The figure spun, fast, too fast. Engaged Kael in a flurry of strikes that forced him back. Elara got the last chain loose. "Run!" she told Genevieve. "Get out of here. I can't just... Run!" Genevieve ran. The masked figure fought like a demon. Whoever they were, they'd been trained by the best. Kael was wounded, tired, and struggling to keep up. Elara saw her moment. She rushed in from the side, dagger aimed low. The figure saw her coming, knocked the dagger away, grabbed her by the throat, and slammed her against the wall. "Clever girl," the voice hissed, "but cleverness only gets you so far." The grip tightened. Elara couldn't breathe. Black spots danced in her vision. Then Kael's sword erupted through the figure's shoulder. The grip released. Elara collapsed, gasping. Kael wrenched his sword free. The figure staggered, reached for the mask. Sterling, Lord Sterling himself, bleeding and furious. "You," Kael breathed. "Me. Did you really think I'd let you take everything I built?" Sterling's laugh was bitter. The king's lapdog, always so righteous, always doing the right thing even when it got good men killed. You don't deserve the position he gave you. So you kidnapped an innocent woman to what? Prove a point? To remind everyone that the old ways still matter. That families like yours can't just rise from nothing and claim power. There are rules, hierarchies. You've broken them all. Sterling's eyes were wild. And now you'll pay. Mira appeared in the doorway with soldiers. "Sterling, stand down. It's over." For a moment, Sterling looked like he might fight. Then he saw the blood pouring from his shoulder, the soldiers surrounding him, the absolute certainty of his defeat. He dropped his sword. "Arrest him," Mira commanded. "Kidnapping, assault on a royal convoy, attempted murder." As they dragged Sterling away, Elara finally caught her breath. Kael helped her stand. "You okay?" "I'm alive. That counts." She touched her throat, already bruising. "Genevieve?" "Safe. My men got her out." Kael's expression was grim. This is going to send shockwaves through the court. Sterling wasn't just any noble. He was the king's council head. "Was," Elara said. "Now he's a traitor." 2 days later, the entire court assembled for Sterling's trial. No private meeting this time. The king wanted everyone to see. Sterling stood in chains, defiant to the end. His testimony revealed everything: how he'd coordinated with Ashford initially, how he'd planned to use the Northern Crisis to seize military control, how when that failed, he'd resorted to kidnapping. "I did what was necessary," Sterling said when asked to explain himself. "House Draven represents everything wrong with the modern court. Upstarts with no respect for tradition, no understanding of proper order. They needed to be stopped." "By kidnapping an innocent woman?" the king asked coldly. "By reminding everyone that power has rules, that you can't just give authority to whoever is clever or ruthless, that bloodlines matter, tradition matters. And murder, does that matter?" Sterling's jaw tightened. "I did what I believed right." "Then you'll die believing it." The king stood. "Lord Sterling, you are found guilty of treason, kidnapping, and conspiracy. The sentence is death, to be carried out at dawn tomorrow." No gasps this time, no protests, just grim acceptance. As they led Sterling away, his eyes found Elara. "You think you've won, but there are dozens like me, hundreds. This court, this kingdom, it's built on families who've held power for centuries. You're just a flash, a moment. Eventually, the old ways will swallow you whole." Elara met his gaze. "Then I'll make sure my moment counts." After the trial, the king called Elara and Kael to a private audience. "What Sterling said," the king began, settling into his chair with visible weariness, "about the old families resenting change, he's not wrong. You've made enemies, Lady Draven, powerful ones who'll spend years plotting against you. I understand, Your Majesty." "I don't think you do. Not fully." The king looked at her. "You're brilliant, courageous. You've proven yourself a dozen times over, but you're also young, inexperienced in the long game. The game where your enemies don't attack directly. They wait. They undermine. They turn your allies against you slowly enough that you don't notice until it's too late. Then I'll learn to play that game too. Will you? Can you? The king's voice wasn't unkind, just realistic. Because that game changes people, makes them paranoid, cruel, isolated. Look at Sterling. He started as an idealist too, ended as a fanatic who kidnapped innocent women. Elara felt Kael's presence beside her, steady, real. I won't end up like Sterling, she said, because I remember where I came from. I remember what it felt like to be powerless. And I won't use power the way he did, to maintain some imaginary order. I'll use it to make sure people like me don't have to claw their way up alone. The king studied her for a long moment. Then he smiled. Good answer. I'm counting on it. He gestured to Kael. And you, Lord Marshal, keep her honest. Keep her grounded. She's going to need an anchor. I will, Your Majesty. See that you do, because I'm making a bet on both of you. A bet that merit can triumph over birthright. That intelligence and courage matter more than lineage. Don't make me regret it. The following week brought change, like a flood. Sterling's execution at dawn. Ashford's exile finalized, he left with his wife and daughter bound for foreign shores, his lands and titles absorbed by the crown. Pemberton was investigated, his corrupt contracts voided. He fled rather than face trial. Vale was spared execution, but stripped of everything. He became a cautionary tale, the weak man who chose the wrong side. The power vacuum was immense. Noble families jockeyed for position. Alliances shifted overnight. It was chaos. And in that chaos, House Draven thrived. Elara restructured the trade system, implementing fair tariffs and transparent contracts. Merchants from the lower city, people like her father had been, suddenly had opportunities. The eastern routes opened to competition. Kael reorganized the military, promoting based on competence rather than birth. Soldiers from common families rose to command positions. The northern and southern defenses were fortified properly. Catherine worked behind the scenes, building alliances with families who valued progress over tradition. The old guard resisted, but they were losing ground. 3 months after Sterling's execution, Elara stood in what had once been Ashford's private box at the Royal Theatre. Now it was hers, a symbolic gesture from the king. Below, the court gathered for a performance celebrating the kingdom's stability. Strange, isn't it? Genevieve's voice came from behind her. Elara turned. She hadn't spoken to Genevieve since the rescue. The woman, she'd grown in exile, stood in the doorway, uncertain. What's strange? Elara asked. That you saved me. After everything. Genevieve stepped closer. I was awful to you. I thought I was better because of my name, my bloodline. I thought you were nothing. You did. And you still came, still risked everything. Genevieve's eyes were different now. Older. Why? Because letting you die would have made me like them. Like Sterling and Ashford and everyone who thinks power means cruelty. Elara turned back to the theater. I won't become that. No matter what. Genevieve was quiet. Then, my father is dying. The shame destroyed him. We're living in a foreign city on charity from distant cousins. Thomas left me before we even reached the border. Apparently a disgraced noblewoman is less appealing than he thought. I have nothing. I know that feeling. I know you do. That's why I came back, secretly, to tell you. Genevieve took a breath. To tell you I was wrong. About everything. And to ask if you need an assistant, someone who knows the old families, their secrets, their weaknesses. Someone who wants to see the system change. Elara looked at her, really looked. Saw the girl who'd laughed at her humiliation transformed into someone who understood what it meant to fall. You'd work for me. The woman from the lower city? I'd work with you, partner, like you and Lord Draven. Genevieve's voice was steady. I have skills, knowledge, connections, even in exile. And I have something to prove, to myself, to my father, to everyone who thinks I'm just a spoiled noble daughter. It was insane. Bringing in someone who'd been part of the plot against her. It was also brilliant. Genevieve's insider knowledge would be invaluable. Her transformation from enemy to ally would send a powerful message. Okay, Elara said, but you start at the bottom. You prove yourself every day, And the moment you betray me, you'll destroy me. I know. Genevieve almost smiled. I've seen what you do to enemies. I'd rather be your ally. They shook hands. An unlikely partnership. But then all of Elara's partnerships had been unlikely. That night, alone in her chambers, Elara stood before the mirror. The woman looking back wore silk and jewels, commanded respect, held real power. But underneath the finery, she was still the strategist's daughter from the lower city. Still the woman who'd been erased at a masquerade and decided to fight back. Kyle appeared in the connecting door. Couldn't sleep? Too much in my head. He joined her at the mirror. Together they looked like what they were. Warriors wearing formal clothes. Scarred and dangerous and absolutely certain. Do you regret it? Kale asked. Any of it? Every day. And not at all. Elara touched the ring on her finger, the one he'd given her. I think about the woman I was, how small I tried to be, how grateful for scraps. That woman would be horrified by what I've become. What have you become? Powerful, ruthless when necessary, someone who makes hard choices and lives with them. She met his eyes in the reflection. Someone like you. That's not an insult anymore, is it? No. It's a fact. We're partners in every sense, political, strategic, maybe even… She trailed off. Even what? Elara turned to face him directly. Even real. This marriage. It started as a transaction, a desperate gamble, but somewhere between the council chambers and the battles and the impossible choices, it became something else. Kael's expression softened in a way she rarely saw. You're saying you love me. I'm saying I trust you, which is harder. Love is easy, just chemicals and emotion. Trust is built, earned, tested in fire and blood and betrayal. She reached up, touched his scarred face. And I trust you with everything I am. Good. Because I love you. He said it simply, factually. Wasn't planning on it. Didn't think I was capable after the war, but you're… He searched for words. You're the only person who sees all of me, the violence, the scars, the choices I've made, and doesn't flinch. You just adapt. Use it. Make it part of your strategy. That's the most romantic thing anyone's ever said to me. I'm not a romantic man. No. But you're my man, and that's better. He kissed her. Not gentle. Not perfect. Real and messy and absolutely right. When they finally pulled apart, Kael rested his forehead against hers. What happens now? Now we keep fighting, keep building, keep proving that people like us deserve power. Elara's voice was quiet but certain. We change this kingdom. Make it better, fair. And when the old families push back, because they will, we push harder. Sounds exhausting. Probably, but we've survived worse. We have. Kael stepped back but kept her hand in his. Together. Together. 6 months later, Elara stood before the King's Council presenting her comprehensive reform of the kingdom's trade and taxation systems. Every eye in the room tracked her, some with respect, some with resentment, all with recognition. She was no longer the woman who could be ignored. When she finished, the king himself led the applause. Brilliant work, Chief Strategist. Your reforms are approved. Implement them immediately. As the council dispersed, old nobles who'd once sneered at her now sought her advice. Merchants from the lower city approached with gratitude. Young women from common families looked at her with hope in their eyes. Outside the council chamber, a crowd had gathered. Word of the reforms had spread. These were her people, the ones who'd been stepped on, exploited, told they didn't matter. Elara stepped out and they cheered, not for a noble, not for a title, for her, for what she represented, for the proof that merit and courage could overcome birth and tradition. Catherine appeared beside her. Look at them. They see you as a hero. I'm not a hero. I'm just stubborn. Same thing sometimes. Catherine's smile was genuine. Your father would be proud. You've done more in 6 months than most people do in a lifetime. It's not enough. There's still so much to fix, so many families still suffering, so much corruption. There always will be. The world doesn't get fixed. It gets better, incrementally, by people who refuse to accept that things can't change. Catherine squeezed her shoulder. You've started something real. A shift in power from bloodlines to ability. That's legacy. That night, Draven House hosted a dinner celebrating the reforms. Not just nobles attended, merchants, scholars, soldiers, anyone who'd contributed. The traditional hierarchy dissolved in the face of shared purpose. Mira raised her glass in toast. To Lady Draven, who proved that courage and brains beat privilege and corruption every time. To Chief Strategist Elara, Genevieve added, standing beside her former enemy, now ally, who taught us that change is possible if you're willing to fight for it. To my daughter, Catherine said, and Elara's breath caught. Catherine had never called her that before. Who built an empire from nothing but intelligence and will, who took every attempt to destroy her and turned it into ammunition. Kael stood last. To my wife, my partner, the woman who changed everything. They drank, laughed, celebrated. But later, when the guests had left and the house was quiet, Elara stood in the room where it had all started. Catherine's study, where she'd first proven herself by solving the Pemberton problem. Kael found her there. Nostalgic, reflective. I keep thinking about that first night, how terrified I was, how certain I'd fail. But you didn't. No. I adapted, survived, evolved. She turned to him. Do you think it's over, the danger, the plotting? No, there will always be enemies. People who resent change, who want the old ways back. We'll fight them until we can't anymore. Kael wrapped his arms around her from behind. But we'll fight together, and we'll win, because we're better at this game than they are. How can you be so sure? Because we learned the hard way. We earned every victory. They're just entitled enough to think power is their birthright. That makes them predictable, beatable. Elara leaned into him, feeling the solid strength of his presence. I love you. I know. You told me 6 months ago. I'm telling you again, in case you forgot. I didn't forget. I think about it every day. About how I found you broken and ready to disappear. And how you chose to fight instead. How you became this. He turned her to face him. You saved me too, you know. From what? From becoming sterling, from letting the war and the violence turn me into a monster who justified everything with necessity. You reminded me there are lines worth holding, things worth protecting beyond just survival. His eyes were soft. You made me better. We made each other better. That's what partners do. They stood in the quiet study, two people who'd found each other at the worst moment of their lives and turned it into the best thing that ever happened to them. Outside, the city slept. Merchants dreamed of fair prices. Common families imagined futures where their children could rise based on talent, not birth. Noble houses plotted how to maintain relevance in a changing world. And in Draven House, in the heart of power, Elara Vance, daughter of a strategist, wife of the Lord Marshal, chief strategist of the King's Council, made plans for tomorrow's battles. Because the fight was never truly over, there would always be corruption to root out, injustice to correct, people who needed defending from those who thought power meant cruelty. But she was ready. She had tools now, knowledge, position, allies, love. And most importantly, she had the absolute certainty that she deserved to be here, that her voice mattered, that she was owed nothing and had earned everything. The masquerade felt like a lifetime ago. The girl who'd stood broken in that ballroom wouldn't recognize the woman she'd become, but that girl would be proud. Elara smiled, turned off the lights, and walked toward the future she'd built with her own hands. A future where merit triumphed over birthright, where intelligence and courage reshaped kingdoms, where a strategist's daughter from the lower city could stand equal to kings and make them listen. She'd been erased once, told she was nothing, thrown away like garbage. She'd made them regret it, made them see her, made them fear and respect and acknowledge that she was real, powerful, and absolutely unbreakable. And tomorrow, she'd do it again. And the day after. And every day after that. Because some fires, once lit, never go out. They just burn brighter, consuming everything that tried to extinguish them and emerging stronger from the flames. Elara Vance had been forged in fire, and she would never stop burning.